It's a blistering 105 degrees Fahrenheit summer afternoon. You're hiding indoors with the AC blasting, and then, boom, the power goes out. No fan, no fridge, no lights. Rolling blackouts are becoming more common every summer, and when the power cuts out in triple-digit heat, it's more than just an inconvenience. It can be downright dangerous. But don't panic. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 15 practical, affordable, and potentially life-saving ways to survive a summer blackout, even if you're on a tight budget. From keeping your food safe to staying cool without air conditioning, these genius tips will help you ride out the next blackout without the stress or the hefty price tag. Hello everyone, and welcome to American Prepper. If you're new here, my name is Dan, and we are all about pantry preparedness and smart, frugal prepping. Recently, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole researching summer power outages because I keep hearing warnings about rolling blackouts and wanted to know what's really going on. I've got my notes here. Let me tell you, the findings were eye-opening. According to the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC, several U.S. regions face elevated risks of rolling blackouts in summer 2025 due to a perfect storm of factors: surging electricity demand, extreme weather, and the retirement of traditional power plants. Which regions, you ask? Well, here's the rundown, and some of these surprised me. Midwest, MISO, the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator region, covering parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, etc., is at high risk of power shortfalls even under normal peak conditions. Why? Because since last summer they've retired about 1,575 megawatts of gas and coal power generation, meaning there's less supply on hand. Fewer reliable plants and a tighter grid equal sign higher blackout risk. I'm over here in Michigan like, really? We could be in the dark even without a heat wave? Apparently, yes. Texas, ERCOT. No surprise, Texas faces significant challenges keeping the lights on during brutal summer heat. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, says early evening hours are the danger zone. When the sun sets, solar power drops off, but demand stays sky high with everyone still cranking their AC. In fact, Texas is practically blackout capital. The state saw over 7,100 major outages from 2019 to 2023, totaling roughly 35,000 hours without power over those summers. Yikes. That means Texas outages tend to last longer than elsewhere, which makes summer especially tough for residents. ERCOT is even predicting record-breaking electricity demand this summer, approximately 85,000 MW peak in August, higher than ever. The state's booming population, new energy-guzzling data centers, and good old extreme heat are straining the grid. We all remember the 2021 Texas power crisis. Let's hope this summer doesn't bring a repeat, but preparation is key. California's grid has been under serious stress in recent years from prolonged heat waves and wildfires, which can knock out transmission lines, plus the retirement of some gas power plants that used to provide around-the-clock supply. Now, credit where it's due. The state has added tons of solar panels and big battery storage to help with reliability. The grid is actually stronger than a couple years ago, thanks to over 13,000 MW of new batteries and other reserves. But even California officials admit that if you get extreme, prolonged heat across the West, combined with wildfires or other disruptions, the system could be pushed to its limits. On those really bad days, meeting the peak demand is still a challenge, so Californians aren't off the hook. If you live out there, you know the drill. Conserve energy during heat waves and have your backup plan ready. Southwest Central, SPP. The Southwest Power Pool, which covers parts of the Central U.S., think states like Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and parts of New Mexico and beyond, is also vulnerable. Their big issue is low wind power during peak demand. SPP relies a lot on wind turbines, and if a huge heat dome settles in, often high-pressure equal-sign low wind, those turbines might not spin enough. NERC warns that wide-area heat events could drive demand way up and simultaneously force some generators offline, leaving too little flexible supply to cover the gap. In plain English, if it's scorching hot and the wind's not blowing, SPP could be in trouble balancing supply and demand, increasing the risk of rolling blackouts. New England. Folks in New England, you've got some elevated risk too, especially during extreme heat waves with high humidity. The Northeast's grid is dealing with aging infrastructure and the shutdown of some older fossil fuel power plants, which means there's less of a cushion when everyone's running ACs full blast. Reserve margins up there have fallen compared to last summer, making the region more reliant on importing power from neighbors when it's sweltering. All that adds up to more vulnerability if a heat wave hits and everyone's cranking the cooling. New York City blackout vibes, anyone? Let's not go there if we can help it. Now, what's causing all these heightened blackout risks? A few big things, according to the experts. Increased electricity demand. We're using more power than ever, especially in summer. Think about it. More people working from home, more electric gadgets, and the electrification of everything. EVs, electric heating, etc. NERC says peak demand across the U.S. is expected to be about 10 gigawatts higher this summer than last. That's like adding the power needs of several million more homes. A lot of this growth is driven by energy-guzzling data centers, new manufacturing plants, and more people plugging in electric cars. Everything's going electric, right? Great for the future. But our grid is playing catch-up. Retirement of traditional power plants. Many old coal and natural gas plants are closing down, some for environmental reasons, some just because they're old. Over 7 gigawatts of reliable fossil fuel generation retired since last summer in North America. That means we've lost a bunch of steady, around-the-clock power sources that operators could call on during peak demand. When those plants retire faster than they can be replaced with equally reliable resources, it reduces the available supply and makes the grid less forgiving if something goes wrong. Reliance on renewables. We're adding lots of renewable energy, which is fantastic in the long run. Clean energy, yes please. In fact, about 30 gigawatts of solar capacity and 13 gigawatts of batteries were added across the continent just in the last year. But renewables like solar and wind are intermittent. They're not available 24/7. Solar quits at night, exactly when that heat is still hanging around after sunset. And wind can be fickle. Batteries help fill the gaps, but we don't yet have enough battery storage to cover a multi-day heat wave or a widespread calm wind spell. The variability of renewables introduces complexity. If a big cloud cover or lull in wind hits during peak demand, the grid has to scramble to compensate. Large-scale battery storage is still catching up to what's needed to fully backstop the ups and downs of renewables. Extreme weather conditions. Summers are getting hotter. I'm not imagining it. Above-average temperatures and prolonged heat waves crank up electricity demand. Everyone's blasting AC. At the same time, extreme heat can actually force power plants or transmission lines out of service. Engines overheat, lines sag or get taken down intentionally for wildfire prevention, etc. So it's a double whammy. Higher demand and potential loss of supply due to the heat stressing the equipment. Plus, things like wildfires or severe storms can directly knock out parts of the grid. The cards are kind of stacked against us in the summer, right? High demand, less cushion, and Mother Nature shaking her fist at our electric grid. Okay, that's the bad news. Deep breath. Now that we know why these summer blackouts are a threat, the big question is, how can we prepare for them, especially on a budget? Because let's face it, none of us has a money tree in the backyard to go buy a $10,000 whole house generator for fun. We've got to be smart, resourceful, and cost-conscious. Nobody's coming to save us, my friends. Not the power company, not the government. It's on us to get ready. So let's dive into the 15 genius ways you can survive a summer blackout without breaking the bank. These are the top strategies I found, practical things you can do right now to ride out a power outage in the summer heat. Number 1, charge everything in advance. Charge it, charge it, charge it. When you know a heat wave is coming or if there's talk of possible rolling blackouts, make sure all your essential devices are fully charged up before peak demand hours. I'm talking about your phones, tablets, laptops, power banks, rechargeable fans, rechargeable flashlights and lanterns, and even solar lights that have built-in batteries. Get all those gizmos juiced up while the power is on. Typically, peak strain on the grid hits in late afternoon to early evening. Think roughly 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. in many places, so aim to have your charging done by then. If you have advance warning that rolling blackouts are planned, Often utilities will send alerts or news will mention it. Stick to a charging schedule. Top off your devices in the morning and early afternoon so that by late day, you're ready to unplug. I've talked before about how I keep multiple battery banks plugged in and at the ready. I'm a bit of a power bank junkie, I'll admit. The key is to charge them ahead of time. Once the electricity goes out, it's too late to plug in that empty battery pack. So keep those battery packs and spare phone chargers topped off. You might even consider getting a couple extra inexpensive power banks if you can. They've come down in price a lot. Trust me, when the lights are out, having a fully charged portable battery to revive your phone or keep a fan running is worth its weight in gold. Also, a pro tip. When the grid is under stress, you might get short brownouts or voltage drops before an outage. Those can be sneaky harmful to devices. Low voltage is bad for appliances. It can make motors overheat. So charging early in the day not only prepares you for outages, it also lets you unplug sensitive electronics during the high-risk hours. And if you do get a warning that a rolling blackout is coming at, say, 6 p.m., have everything charged by 5:59 and then unplug it right before the power goes. You'll save your devices from any power fluctuations and be all set for the outage. In summary, plan ahead and charge ahead. It's simple. It's free. Well, it's electricity you'd be using anyway. And you'll be so glad when you have a phone with 100% battery as you stare into the hot, dark abyss of a blackout evening. Number 2. Invest in backup power sources smartly. Now I say invest, but don't panic. This is budget-friendly investing. Having some kind of backup power source is really important, especially if you live in a super hot climate or you rely on electricity for medical devices. It can literally be life-saving, but you don't have to spend a fortune. Here are a few options. Battery banks and solar chargers. As I mentioned, small USB battery packs are inexpensive and great for keeping phones and small devices alive. If you can afford a bit more, consider a solar charger or small folding solar panel that can recharge those power banks or your phone in daylight. Even a $30, $50 solar phone charger might give you endless free recharges as long as the sun is out. It's slow, but in a multi-day outage that could be a game changer to have renewable juice for your gadgets. Portable power stations. These are those beefy battery units like the Jackery, EcoFlow, Bluetti, etc. Essentially big batteries with AC outlets. They are more expensive up front, but they're silent, safe to use indoors, and incredibly handy. If you have a bit of budget saved, you might look into a small power station that can at least run a fan, charge laptops, or keep a CPAP machine going through the night. Models from Jackery, EcoFlow, Bluetti, and others come in various sizes. Some of the mid-range ones can even power things like a coffee maker or a mini fridge for a short time. Because let's be honest, if I can have coffee during a blackout, I'm a much nicer person. No pressure to buy one, but if outages are becoming common in your area, it could be worth it. Keep an eye out for sales or consider the lower capacity models which cost less. Generators. Go for propane if possible. If you're in a house and blackouts are a recurrent threat, a generator might be on your wish list. Traditional gas generators are effective, but remember, gasoline has a shelf life, and storing lots of gas can be a pain and a safety hazard. Propane is a great fuel choice because properly stored propane can last practically forever without going bad. So if you're looking at generators, I'd suggest a dual fuel generator that can run on propane or gas. They're not insanely priced. You can find relatively small ones that are fairly affordable. Even a modest generator, if used wisely, can keep your refrigerator and freezer going, which is huge. In a long outage, keeping your perishable food cold is probably priority number 1, aside from your personal safety and hydration. If you get a generator, safety first. Run it outside, far from any windows or doors. The CDC recommends at least 20 feet away from your home to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And absolutely never run a generator in a garage or enclosed porch. I don't care if the doors are open. It's not worth the risk. Also, get yourself a carbon monoxide detector, or a couple for different floors, if you don't have them already. Every year we hear tragic stories of people surviving a hurricane or blackout only to be poisoned by generator fumes. Let's not add to that statistic. So yeah, generators are fantastic tools. Just use them wisely and safely. Now, I get that a generator is a bigger ticket item. If you're on a tight budget, focus first on the smaller backup power sources like batteries and solar gadgets, which you can acquire gradually. But I will say this: if your area is almost certainly facing rolling blackouts regularly, especially if they might last hours at a time, try to prioritize some way to keep your fridge/freezer powered. The cost of a lost freezer full of food could equal or exceed a small generator's cost. And if you have any meats or high-value foods stored long-term, consider canning some of that freezer stock. I do this all the time. I'll can up chicken, beef, broth, etc. from the freezer. Once it's canned, it's shelf-stable, and I don't have to worry about it in an outage. That way, if a blackout does hit and I can't run a generator for whatever reason, I know my precious home-canned food is safe and sound, no electricity needed. So to sum up, way number 2, acquire backup power sources within your means. Charge packs and solar chargers for the low-budget end, portable power stations, or a generator, propane preferably, if you can swing it. And if you get that generator, please remember safety and set it up properly. No one needs a hospital trip on top of a blackout. Number 3, prep some no-cook and shelf-stable meals. When the power's out, your stove might not work, especially if you have an electric range. Even gas stoves often have electric ignition these days. And of course, your microwave is a no-go. So it's super helpful to have a plan for meals that don't require cooking, or that can be heated with alternative methods like a camp stove or grill. Plus, you want foods that won't spoil if your fridge is warming up. Here are some budget-friendly ideas for eating well, or at least good enough, during a blackout. Shelf-stable staples. Stock up on things like canned goods, tuna, chicken, beans, soups, chili, stew, peanut butter, because peanut butter is life, let's be honest, jerky, protein bars or granola bars, crackers, boxed milk or plant-based milk, the kind that is shelf-stable until opened, and maybe some of those instant cup noodles or ramen. You can boil water on a camp stove or even with a solar kettle if you have one. These require little to no cooking and can keep you nourished. Canned fruit and applesauce pouches are great for something sweet and hydrating too. One jar or one-pot meals. If you do have a way to heat something, barbecue grill, charcoal grill, camping stove, propane burner, even a fireplace or fire pit outside, plan a couple of easy one-pot meals. For example, you could heat up a can of soup or stew, or make a quick skillet meal with canned chicken, canned veggies, and pre-cooked rice or pasta. There are ready rice packets that heat in 90 seconds. You could throw those in a pan with a little water. Foil packet meals on the grill are also fun. Wrap up some canned potatoes and ham or whatever and heat it through. No Cook Cuisine. If it's too hot to even think about cooking, stick to no heat required foods. You can make a pretty decent meal of tuna salad or chicken salad, use those little mayo packets if you don't want to open a whole jar, or peanut butter and crackers with a side of canned fruit, etc. Cereal with boxed milk works. Trail mix or nuts for fats and protein. And don't forget hydration. That brings us to the next tip, water storage. But in terms of food, having some powdered drink mixes or electrolyte tablets could help keep you cool and balanced if you're sweating buckets in the heat. The idea is, write out a simple blackout menu before you actually have to deal with an outage. That way, you're not opening the fridge or pantry aimlessly, letting cold air out of the fridge with each peek. Post the plan on your fridge or inside a cabinet. Something like, Day 1 dinner if power out, canned chili with tortilla chips, Day 2 breakfast, granola bars and juice box, etc. Use up perishable items first if they're still cold, more on that later in the food safety tip, but have a lineup of shelf-stable options ready to go for the duration. Also, have a safe cooking method available. On a budget, one of the best options is a simple butane or propane single-burner camp stove, those little tabletop ones. They're usually in the $20, $40 range and small to store. Make sure you also stock a few fuel canisters for it. That can boil water, heat up canned foods, even sauté things if you're feeling fancy. If you have a charcoal or gas grill, that works too. You can heat water or food on the grill, just be careful with pots on a grill, and obviously only use grills outdoors. I've even heard of folks using a fondue pot with candles or a chafing dish setup to heat soups in a pinch. Hey, whatever works. Just be mindful of fire hazards and ventilation if you're cooking indoors with any flame. Lastly, don't forget comfort foods. Blackouts are stressful. Having a stash of your favorite snacks or treats can keep morale up. Maybe it's a bag of cookies or some chocolate that doesn't melt easily, or instant coffee packets, because I will find a way to have my coffee, power or no power. It might seem trivial, but little things to lift your spirits can make riding out an outage much more bearable, especially if you have kids who might get antsy without TV or internet. A package of Oreos can be magical when the lights are out, trust me. Number 4. Store water and lots of it. Water may not immediately come to mind for a power outage, but it's critical, especially in summer. If you're on city, municipal water, you'll likely still have water during a blackout because the water utility has backup systems. However, big outages can affect water treatment plants or pumping stations, so it's not guaranteed. If you're on a well, which runs on an electric pump, then no power equals sign no running water in your house, period. So you definitely need a backup water supply. My recommendation? Have at least 2 gallons of water per person and per pet per day of outage. Why so much? Because that covers drinking, basic cooking, and a bit for hygiene. In high heat, people can easily need a gallon just for drinking and staying hydrated. And you want extra for things like washing hands or gasp flushing a toilet if you have to. Pro tip: fill up your bathtub or some buckets with water when a blackout is imminent. That non-potable water can be used to manually flush toilets or wash up. No sense using your precious bottled water for flushing. The good news is water is cheap. You can literally fill empty soda bottles or jugs with tap water now and stash them. Or, if you want the easy route, those 40 packs of bottled water at Walmart or Costco are typically under $5, $6. That's about 5 gallons of water in each pack. Grab a couple and store them in a cool place. You can also buy the 1-gallon jugs for like 80 cents each. For longer-term storage, I prefer filling my own containers. Less plastic waste over time. But even if you just have a few cases of bottled water sitting in your closet all summer, you'll be glad to have it. Remember to rotate your stored water every so often. Once a year is fine if store-bought, or every 6 months if home-filled to keep it fresh. And never store water containers directly on concrete. Put a piece of cardboard under them to prevent any weird chemical leaching from the concrete. Another aspect: water filtration and purification. This is more for an extended emergency, but not bad to have in your arsenal. A Brita pitcher or basic water filter can improve taste but doesn't truly purify. For real purification, consider something like a Life Straw, Sawyer filter, or gravity-fed charcoal filter. Even cheap pool shock, calcium hypochlorite, or bleach can treat water in a pinch. There are instructions out there on how many drops of bleach per gallon, usually 6-8 drops of unscented bleach per gallon for clear water. Also, water purification tablets, iodine or chlorine dioxide, can be handy for small batches. Important: learn how to use these tools before you actually need them. Owning a water filter won't help if you've never practiced with it or haven't cleaned it since you bought it 5 years ago. Same with purification tablets. Know the drill: how long to wait, what it will taste like, etc. For a short-term outage, most likely you'll be fine with stored water. But I always like to have a backup to the backup. If, say, the blackout lasts longer than expected and stores can't sell water because cash registers are down, you might need to tap into a local stream or rain barrel. That's where a filter would be essential. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget your pets. They need water too, and probably more than usual if it's hot. Figure at least a liter, about a quart of water per day per medium-sized pet, minimum, and more if they're large or it's really hot. Our furry friends can't exactly tell us they're thirsty, so plan for them. Water is life. You do not want to be scrambling for it when you're also dealing with heat and darkness. So stock up now while it's cheap and easy. You'll use what you store eventually anyway. Just rotate it out into your regular use if the jugs approach their best-by date, then refill. Cheap insurance, right? Number 5. Have multiple light sources handy. When the power goes out, one of the first annoyances, aside from sweating, is being stuck in the dark. Sure, summer means long daylight hours, but if an outage stretches into the evening or a storm knocks out power at night, you'll need light. Multiple light sources are the way to go. You want backups for your backups. and candles are not my first choice in a hot summer outage, especially if you've got kids or pets or clumsy adults, like me, stumbling around. Open flames plus everyone using hand fans equals a recipe for something catching fire. Let's explore safer alternatives. Flashlights and headlamps. Every household should have a few good flashlights. LED ones are great because they give good light and don't drain batteries too fast. Also, invest in at least one headlamp, the kind you wear on your forehead. They are a lifesaver when you need hands-free light, like when you're digging through a closet for supplies or taking the dog out at night. Headlamps can be super cheap, like $10, and are worth every penny for the convenience. Check them now to be sure the batteries are fresh or the internal battery is charged. I stash flashlights in every major room, so I'm never more than a few steps from one if the lights suddenly go out. LED lanterns or lamps. These can light up a whole room with a nice gentle glow. There are battery-powered lanterns that run on AAA or D batteries, and also newer rechargeable LED lanterns that you can top off via USB. I personally love the lantern style because you can set it on a table and not blind yourself, unlike a flashlight, which is a beam. Also, inflatable solar lanterns, like the Lucy brand lights, are fantastic. You leave them in a window during the day to charge, and they give a nice ambient light at night. Very budget-friendly, too. You can often find them for under $20. And the solar garden lights hack. You know those little stake lights you put along your walkway? You can actually bring those inside at night. Set them in a jar or a pot to stand upright, and they can dimly light a room. During the day, stick them back outside to recharge. They're not super bright, but hey, they'll save you batteries for sure. Glow sticks. Yup, the dollar store glow stick bracelets or the camping glow sticks. Those are actually useful for low-level light. I always keep a pack in my emergency kit. They're cheap, safe, no flame, no heat, and can calm kids down because it feels fun, like a little glowing wand. They typically last 6-8 hours. Not enough to read by, but perfect for marking a step or door or keeping one in the bathroom so you don't trip over things in the dark. Battery-operated candles. I know that sounds silly, but I have a bunch of those LED candles that flicker. They are awesome for mood lighting, and I actually use them year-round on timers. So at 7 p.m. every night, a few candles light up in my living room, very cozy and no fire risk. In an outage, these are great because they give you some light without worrying about setting the house ablaze. The ones with timers can be set to come on at a certain time each evening automatically, which is a neat trick if you're frequently without power. Set it and forget it, they'll click on and at least you're not in pitch black. Now, I'm not saying don't have actual candles at all. If you do use candles, just be extra careful. Never leave them unattended and keep them away from anything flammable, especially curtains. Summer breeze through an open window plus candle flame =, bad. A safer way to use a real candle is to put it inside a wide-mouthed jar or vase, so it's somewhat contained. But again, in a hot summer blackout, the last thing you want is additional heat from candles. I really prefer the cool, battery-powered options. And don't forget matches or lighters if you do plan to use candles or need to light up a camping stove or grill. Keep a few lighters in your kit or some waterproof matches. To be budget-conscious, check thrift stores or yard sales for old lanterns or flashlights. You can often find them for cheap. Even if the batteries are dead or missing, that's an easy fix. Also, the dollar store sometimes has small LED push lights or tap lights. Those can work in a pinch stuck on walls or placed on a shelf. Number 6. Stay cool without air conditioning. This is the biggie in a summer blackout. Heat. If your power outage happens on a 100 degrees Fahrenheit day, how do you keep from roasting? It's not easy, I won't lie, but there are a bunch of tricks to help stay as cool as possible without AC. And most of them cost little to nothing. Block the sun. The moment the power goes out, or if you know it's coming, go around and close all your blinds, curtains, and shades on the sunny side of the house. South and west windows, especially in the afternoon. Cover them up. You want to prevent that radiant heat from turning your house into a greenhouse? If you don't have heavy curtains, improvise, hang up blankets or even aluminum foil in the windows to reflect heat. Yeah, it looks goofy from outside, but it works. I do this on super hot days, even with the AC on, to give it a fighting chance. In the original 2003 Northeast blackout, a lot of folks learned that keeping sunlight out was crucial to not overheating indoors. Create a cross breeze if it's cooler outside than inside. If, and only if, the outside air is cooler than inside, strategically open windows to promote airflow. Open a lower window on the cooler/shaded side of your home and an upper window on the hot side. This can create a chimney effect to pull hot air out. You can even hang a damp sheet in front of an open window. As the breeze blows through it, it'll feel cooler, evaporative cooling, like those misting fans at theme parks. Fans, battery-powered fans or USB rechargeable fans are worth their weight in gold during a hot outage. Even a small handheld fan can at least blow air on your face and help you not feel so stifled. Hand fan, as in the old-school paper fan, or even a piece of cardboard, yes, it's manual labor, but it does help. If you have a little more battery backup, a bigger portable fan can make a room much more livable. I keep a couple of those 8-inch USB fans that can plug into my battery packs. They don't use much power and can run for hours. Moving air over your skin greatly increases evaporation of sweat, which is how your body cools itself. So fans equal sign essential. Cooling towels and cool showers. You can buy those cooling towels. You wet them and put around your neck. They cool as the water evaporates. Or just use any bandana or thin towel, soak it in water, wring it out, drape over neck. Repeat as needed. Also, if you still have running water, municipal supply, take cool showers or baths to bring your core temp down. Or simply soak your feet in a bucket of cold water. It can really refresh you. Keep a spray bottle of water and spritz yourself, or your kids' pets, and sit in front of a fan instant cooling. Seek lower, cooler air. Hot air rises, cool air sinks. If you have a basement, that will usually be the coolest spot in the house. Consider camping out down there during the peak heat of the day. If not, the north side of the first floor will often be cooler than upstairs bedrooms. In a short outage, everyone can have a little living room slumber party on the floor where it's cooler, rather than trying to sleep in a 90 degrees Fahrenheit upstairs bedroom. If you live in an apartment and you're on a high floor, maybe consider spending time in the lobby or a lower floor hallway, if it's safe and allowed, because higher floors get hotter. Hydration and cool treats. Stay hydrated. Drink water, suck on ice cubes. If you have ice, might as well use some early on to keep yourself cool from the inside out. Save some of those popsicles in your freezer for an emergency cool-down snack. Eat them before they turn to juice. Avoid heavy meals or hot foods because they'll make you feel hotter. Instead, eat cold things, fruit from the fridge, a cold sandwich, salad, etc. This is where those no-cook meals from tip number 3 come in handy, because using a stove will heat up your space. Dress for the occasion, or don't. Wear lightweight, loose, breathable clothing. Cotton is good, or those moisture-wicking athletic fabrics. Honestly, when it's that hot and you're at home, who cares what you look like? Light shorts and a tank top, or even a wet t-shirt, whatever helps. Some people swear by simply draping a damp towel around their shoulders or keeping their hair wet. It does make a difference. Strategic use of car or public spaces. This overlaps with another tip we'll get to about cars and community, but I'll mention here. If it gets dangerously hot inside and you're feeling unwell, go to a cooling center or somewhere with power if you can. Public libraries, malls, movie theaters, or official community cooling centers are there for a reason. Even sitting in your car with the AC on, if you have gas and an operable car, for a little while can help lower your body temp, but do not do this in a closed garage. Ever carbon monoxide danger. Only run your car AC in a well-ventilated area or outside, and obviously be mindful of gas usage. But if you have to, a 15-minute car cool-off can prevent heat exhaustion from setting in. I know that's a lot of little tactics, but combine them and it can make a big difference. The goal is to prevent heat stroke or dehydration. If anyone, especially kids or elderly folks, starts acting disoriented, stops sweating, or has a rapid pulse, those are signs of heat illness, and you need to cool them down fast. Cool bath, wet sheets, medical help if severe. Don't mess around with extreme heat. One more creative idea. Make a DIY swamp cooler. If you have a battery fan, set a shallow pan of ice water, or just a bowl of ice, in front of it. The air passing over the ice will cool and voila ghetto AC. Even a frozen water bottle in front of a fan helps a tiny bit. I've heard of people using a styrofoam cooler, cutting a hole for a fan and another hole as an output vent, put ice inside, and the fan blows cooled air out. Look it up if you're curious. It's a fun project and can actually drop the temp in a small area by a few degrees. Staying cool is the toughest part of a summer blackout, but with these strategies you can at least survive it with less misery. And hey, once the sun goes down, things usually improve. Nighttime blackouts in summer can actually be a little pleasant if a breeze comes. Break out the candles, or LED candles, and pretend you're camping. Attitude and mindset can help too, but I'm not going to tell you to think cool thoughts. We're sticking to real solutions here. Number 7. Preserve your fridge and freezer food. All right, let's talk about your fridge and freezer, because they're full of dollar and sustenance. A big concern in any power outage is, will my food spoil? Groceries are expensive, and losing a freezer full of food is heartbreaking and messy. But the good news, food keeps longer than you might think if you take the right steps. First rule, keep those doors closed. The moment the power goes out, resist the urge to open the fridge or freezer to check things. Every time you open it, cold air rushes out and warm air sneaks in. A full freezer that remains closed can stay at a safe temperature for about 48 hours, 2 days, or 24 hours if it's only half full. A fridge, closed, will keep food safe for around 4 hours. After that, things start warming into the danger zone, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So your mission? Buy time by keeping those doors shut as much as humanly possible. Here are some genius budget tips to maximize your fridge-freezer resilience. Freeze water bottles or ice packs. Before an anticipated blackout, like the day before a heat wave or if storms are forecast, take some plastic bottles, fill them 3/4 with water to allow expansion, and freeze them. If you have space, freeze as many as you can. These will turn into giant ice packs that help keep the freezer and fridge cold longer. You can also use Tupperware or Ziploc bags filled with water. Once the power is out, you can transfer a couple of these homemade ice packs from the freezer to the fridge. Put them on the top shelf, because cold sinks down. This will help keep your fridge under 40 degrees Fahrenheit for longer than 4 hours, maybe up to 6, 8 hours depending on conditions. In the freezer, having everything frozen solid and packed together, with those ice bottles filling gaps, means it will stay colder longer. Thermal mass for the win. Group foods. Together. If your freezer isn't jam-packed, consider pushing all items close together. Wear gloves if digging in a cold freezer. A tightly packed freezer stays cold longer than one with lots of airspace. In the fridge, you can put meats together, ideally on a tray in case they drip when thawing, and items that are most perishable in the coldest part of the fridge, usually the back or bottom. Use coolers for extended outages. If the outage goes beyond 4 hours and you're worried about fridge items, you can transfer some critical perishables, milk, meat, etc., to a cooler with ice. Use those frozen water bottles. This is only if you need to open the fridge. It might be better to leave it shut and hope power returns. But if you get info that power will be out all day, consolidate the must-saves into a cooler and keep that cooler closed. It's easier to toss a bag of ice in a cooler than to cool the whole fridge. Monitor temps. If you can, keep a thermometer in your fridge and freezer. The appliance thermometers are cheap. This way, when power comes back, or if you do open briefly, you can see how warm it got. The rule of thumb: food above 40 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 2 hours equals sign toss it, especially meat, dairy, leftovers, anything prone to bacteria. If your fridge stayed at, say, 38 degrees Fahrenheit the whole time, your food is fine. If it crept up to 50 degrees Fahrenheit and it's been warm for 3 hours, I'd start chucking the more dangerous items, raw chicken, etc. When in doubt, throw it out. No one wants food poisoning on top of a power outage. Know what to save, toss. Some foods are actually okay at room temp. Butter can sit out. Hard cheeses like cheddar are usually fine. Most condiments, ketchup, mustard, jelly, are loaded with vinegar or sugar, and won't go bad quickly. Eggs. Interestingly, if they were store-bought in the U.S., they've been washed and need refrigeration, but they can still last a day at room temp in a pinch. Just don't push it. Use common sense and sniff test after power returns. If something smells off, pitch it. Also look at texture. Milk that has been warmed will spoil faster even once recooled. Prioritize freezer items. A full freezer stays cold approximately 48 hours, as I said. After that, food will start to thaw. A handy tip? Don't refreeze meat that has completely thawed and gotten above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But if it still has ice crystals or is still cold, below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you can refreeze it, though quality might suffer. So, if power returns when stuff is partially thawed, cook and eat what you can in the next day or two, and refreeze the rest only if it's safe. If it's been more than 2 days and the freezer stuff is all thawed and warm, then it's toss time. A tip I like: keep a list of what's in your freezer taped on the outside. Then, if the power's out, you can consult the list rather than open the door to see what you might need to deal with. Also, you'll know what to cook first if you have a generator to run an appliance. For example, ice cream is always the first to go soft, because nobody ever buries their ice cream at the bottom, right? It's always on top where it melts fastest. So maybe plan an ice cream party early on, purely for survival reasons, of course. Don't panic toss. True story. I heard about someone whose freezer got accidentally unplugged for just 4 hours, and they started throwing everything out to be safe. In most cases, 4 hours with the door closed will hardly affect a fully frozen freezer. Stuff will still be rock solid. So don't freak out and waste food unnecessarily. Use the guidance. Under 48 hours and still cold? Likely okay. And cook that food as soon as you can if it's starting to thaw. Cooking will not make spoiled food safe, but it will allow you to safely eat food that is on the edge. For example, if your ground beef is 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit for a few hours, you wouldn't want to refreeze it raw, but you could cook it thoroughly and then either eat it or refreeze the cooked meat for later use. One more tip: have a big cooler or two on standby and maybe some cash to buy ice if an extended outage happens. During some blackouts, stores that still have power or backup generators will sell ice like hotcakes. Stocking a cooler with ice and transferring freezer contents can save a lot if the outage is days long. Dry ice is another option to keep a freezer cold, handle with gloves, but it can be expensive and hard to find on short notice. Okay, enough with the food safety lecture. Can you tell I'm passionate about not wasting food? The bottom line is, keep it cold, keep it closed, monitor, and use your best judgment. Better to eat up those leftovers the first night by candlelight than to find them rotten a day later. Number 8. Adjust your daily routine. Shift the power usage. If you know that blackouts or intentional rolling outages might be happening, it's time to adjust your habits a bit. Even if you're not officially notified, sometimes you get a pattern like, power seems to go out every afternoon for an hour. To cope, try to do your high-energy tasks at off-peak times or when you have power for sure. What do I mean? Think about chores and activities that use electricity or that you need electricity for, and plan them for earlier in the day or late at night when the grid is under less strain. For example, laundry. Do it in the morning if you suspect an afternoon outage. If your utility offers those time-of-use plans with cheaper overnight rates, it's a clue that midday is peak. So avoid running big appliances then. I'll be honest, I'm not one to wake up at 2 a.m. to run the washer just to save a few cents. I like my sleep, thank you. But I can make sure to get laundry done at 9 a.m. instead of 5 p.m. If an outage hits, at least I have clean undies. Dishes. Same thing. Maybe run that dishwasher cycle in the morning or after 9 p.m. Or wash by hand quickly during the day if needed, to avoid a pileup. Cooking/cleaning. Do meal prep in the morning when it's cooler and you have power. You can always reheat on a camp stove later if you must. Vacuum in the morning. Basically, front-load your day's tasks. In a worst-case scenario of planned rolling outages, they often happen in late afternoon evening when everyone's blasting AC and cooking dinner. So maybe have a sandwich night or something that doesn't require the oven at 6 p.m. Charging devices. We covered this in tip number 1: charge stuff early and then unplug during those peak hours. Not only does that ensure you have battery life, but it actually reduces strain on the grid a tiny bit. If 1 million people did it, it might even avert some outages. It's like everyone letting up on the accelerator so the grid doesn't crash. Errands and outings. If you know a blackout is likely between, say, 7 p.m., some utilities will actually schedule rotating outages, plan to run errands or go somewhere during that window. Go to the store. Go see a friend in a part of town that isn't out. Take the kids to the pool or library, if those places have power. That way you're not sitting at home stewing in the heat, and you'll be someplace that, hopefully, has AC. Of course, be mindful of traffic signals being out if the outage is widespread. Treat them as four-way stops. Drive carefully. But often rolling outages are limited to residential areas and critical infrastructure stays powered. I want to acknowledge adjusting routines is easier said than done. We're all busy, and some things just have to happen when they have to. I, for one, have grumbled at my utility's suggestion to do laundry at 3 a.m. to save energy. Yeah, you want to come over and fold it too at 4 a.m.? I didn't think so. But in an emergency or short-term scenario, a little flexibility can really help. One thing I don't like is those peak time savings programs some power companies push, where they charge you exorbitant rates at peak hours but super cheap at night. If it works for you, great. But I personally hate feeling penalized for living life at normal hours. I mention this because in some areas with tight grids, utilities are encouraging people to shift usage away from 8 p.m. by incentive or by high rates. That might not be optional in the future if blackouts worsen. They might do it by necessity. Anyway, rant aside, the takeaway is to plan your day with the blackout in mind. Treat the likely outage period as downtime. Maybe literally downtime where you relax, in the coolest spot you can find. Read a book, play a board game with the family, take a nap. Heat makes you drowsy anyway. Then, when the power's back late at night, you can do a quick blitz of any tasks that couldn't wait, or if you're asleep, catch up the next morning. It's a bit like how some communities handle siesta during hot afternoons. Lay low during the worst heat, then be productive in the cooler evening or morning. If you make this mental shift, blackouts become less disruptive. Instead of freaking out at 5 p.m. because you are about to cook dinner, you'll already have dinner made, a cold pasta salad perhaps, and you'll just light some candles and say, okay, it's family game night until the lights come back. It turns from an emergency into just another part of the summer routine. Number 9. Unplug electronics during an outage and use surge protectors. This is a big one for protecting your gear. When the power suddenly goes out, and especially when it comes back on, there can be power surges or voltage fluctuations. Those can fry electronics if you're unlucky. I don't know about you, but I do not want to replace a TV or computer because of a power company issue. So take a moment when an outage hits, assuming you're home, to unplug valuable electronics. Focus on things like your TV, desktop computer, gaming consoles, microwave, stereo, etc. Basically anything that isn't essential and that could be sensitive to surges. If you're using a generator, you might also only want essential devices plugged into that, both to save fuel and protect them. Better yet, in general use, plug those expensive items into surge protector power strips. Many of us already do, but double check. A plain power strip is not necessarily a surge protector. Make sure it says it has surge protection and that the little light, if it has one, is on indicating it's working. Surge protectors wear out over time, by the way. One big surge and they sacrifice themselves to save your stuff. So if you've had one for years, consider replacing it periodically. During a rolling blackout scenario, sometimes the power may flicker on and off multiple times, which is terrible for appliances. If lights are dimming, a brownout, or going on-off, that's when motors in fridges or AC units can get damaged. If you suspect that's happening, you might even consider unplugging your fridge AC until the power stabilizes. Yes, you'll lose cooling for a short while, but it's better than the compressor blowing out. This is a bit of a judgment call. Generally, if power is just out completely, leave the fridge closed and plugged. No electricity, no harm. But if it's doing the funky on-off dance, then unplug. I personally have a practice. Whenever the power goes out, I immediately turn off or unplug my desktop computer and my air conditioning unit. if it doesn't shut off on its own. I also turn off light switches, so everything doesn't all come back on bright if I'm not expecting it. Then I go around and turn off, unplug entertainment electronics. This might sound paranoid, but I've been through outages where when the power came back we got a huge spike. I actually had a surge protector smoke on me once. It did its job and saved my stuff, but it was scary to smell that electrical burn. Also, if you have a well pump or other big appliance, having it off when power returns can reduce the initial load spike on the grid too. Imagine everyone's AC compressor trying to kick on at the same time when power returns. That can cause a second outage. So having things off helps the grid recover more smoothly. After power returns and seems stable for say 5-10 minutes, then go ahead and plug things back in or flip the breakers back on for your major appliances. Bring things back one by one if you can, rather than all at once. One more tip. Consider getting an uninterruptible power supply, UPS, for critical electronics like your computer or Wi-Fi router. A UPS is basically a battery backup for electronics. Even a small one can give you a few minutes to safely shut down your PC, or keep the internet alive long enough to get an update on your phone about the outage. They also provide surge protection. Some are under $100. Not necessary, but if you work from home or have expensive tech, it's an option. But the cheapest solution is what we started with. Unplug, unplug, unplug. It costs nothing and can save you hundreds of dollars and lots of heartache. And don't forget stuff like your phone charger. If that's plugged in when power surges, it could damage your phone too. Basically, anything with a circuit board is vulnerable. To be clear, you don't have to unplug your fridge or chest freezer unless you know of a surge risk. Appliances like refrigerators are typically okay to ride through outages. They're just off while power's off. The surge risk is mainly to electronics. Though if you have a spare surge protector, even the fridge can be plugged through one. Make sure the protector can handle the amps of an appliance. Many are not rated for fridges, freezers, so check that. So, when the world goes dark, do a quick round. TV off, computer off, AC off, microwave off, fish tank filter off. If you have aquarium pets, surges can kill those pumps too. Then worry about the rest of the stuff. It's a small step that a lot of people forget in the chaos of an outage, but you'll be one step ahead. Number 10. Stay informed. Get a radio and sign up for alerts. How am I supposed to stay informed with no power? I hear ya. But it's important to know what's going on during a blackout, especially if it's widespread or weather-related. You'll want updates on restoration times, or whether the outage is due to something serious like a fire or storm damage. In rolling blackouts, utilities often rotate which areas are out, and they might send notifications. So here's how to stay in the loop. Battery-powered or hand-crank radio. This is an absolute must for emergency preparedness in general. Get yourself a NOAA weather radio or any portable AM/FM radio that either runs on batteries or has a hand-crank/solar function. They're not expensive, many decent ones are $20-40, and they can literally be a lifeline. During major power outages, local radio stations will often broadcast updates. NOAA weather radio will give emergency alerts. I remember the great Northeast blackout of 2003. I was sitting on my front porch, totally in the dark about what happened, pun intended. And my neighbor had one of those hand-crank radios. We ended up gathered around it like it was 1940, listening for news. That's how I found out the extent of the outage. It wasn't just my town, it was like the entire Northeast. I was floored. Ever since then, I keep a hand-crank radio. It doesn't rely on batteries, though you can use them. A minute of cranking gives you like 10 minutes of radio. Some also charge via solar panel or USB. Many models also double as flashlights and phone chargers. It's a great multi-purpose gadget for emergencies. Sign up for alerts. If your utility company offers text or email alerts for outages, sign up now. Usually you can do this on their website or by texting a number. They might send warnings if rolling outages are planned. Expect outages in your area between 4-6 p.m., or at least updates. Crew dispatched, estimated restoration 8 p.m. if it's an unexpected outage. Now, in a total power grid failure, those systems might not work, but for localized or rotating outages, they should. Also sign up for community emergency alerts. Many cities, counties have reverse 911 or text alert systems for major emergencies. Use your car radio or charger. If you didn't get a radio and you're desperate for info, you can always go to your car. Your car radio will work as long as your car has battery gas. Tune into local news or emergency broadcast stations. Just be mindful of running the car in an open area. Again, not in a garage with the door closed. Also, your car can charge your phone if needed. Having a car charger adapter is clutch. I will often sit in my car with it running outside to charge my phone and cool off with AC while listening to radio updates. It's a nice little haven if your house is unbearably hot. Neighbors and community info. Sometimes the best info is word of mouth. If safe, check on neighbors and share what you know. Maybe someone has a generator and a TV going and can relay news. Or someone might know that the utility said 2-hour rotating outages, so we should get power back by 7 p.m., etc. There are also often community groups on social media, like local Facebook groups or the Nextdoor app, where people post about outages. Of course, without power, your internet modem router won't work. But if you have cell service, you might still access those on your phone. Use sparingly to conserve phone battery, but it can be helpful. Anyone know why we lost power? Yeah, transformer blew on 3rd Street, or rolling blackouts, should be back soon. That kind of info eases the mind. Know your region's plan. Earlier I talked about NERC's report and specific regions at risk. Some utility companies actually publish load-shedding schedules, or at least guidelines. For example, California ISO, or Texas ERCOT, sometimes have programs to notify of conservation stages or potential outages. It's worth taking a peek at your power provider's website before an outage. They might have a FAQ on what to do in a blackout, how they'll communicate, or a map of rotating outage blocks. Knowledge is power, ironically even when there's no electrical power. Also, keep some basic emergency info printed out. Important phone numbers, power company outage line, doctors, family contacts, etc. If your cell dies and you can't access your contacts, you'll be glad you wrote Mom's number on paper somewhere. If there's a true emergency, like a fire or medical issue during a blackout, you should still call 911. They operate on backup systems. But having a battery radio means you'll also hear if there are any emergency instructions, like cooling center open at X location, or please check on elderly neighbors, etc. Staying informed keeps you mentally calmer too. It's reassuring to know, okay, it's not just me, the whole city is out and they estimate a couple hours. You can then make better decisions, like maybe go grab dinner somewhere in an area that has power if it's going to be a while. The unknown is what causes panic, so don't be in the dark about being in the dark, if that makes sense. Get that radio and sign up for those alerts, and you'll be a step ahead. Number 11. Have a backup plan for medical needs. If you or anyone in your household has a medical condition that relies on electricity, this tip is absolutely critical. We're talking CPAP machines, oxygen concentrators, refrigerated medications, insulin, etc., powered wheelchairs, home dialysis, or even something as simple as needing the house cooler due to a health condition. You must have a plan to deal with outages. Here's what you can do on a budget to safeguard health. Notify your utility's medical priority list. Most power companies have a program where you can register as a medical baseline or medical priority customer if you have life-sustaining equipment. This typically doesn't guarantee you won't lose power, but it might mean you get advance notice or you're among the first restored if there's an outage. Call your utility and ask about it. Sometimes they require a doctor's note, etc. It's worth getting on that list. However, and this is important, never assume priority equals no outage. You still need your own backup plan, because in a grid emergency, even critical homes can go dark. Backup power for devices. For something like a CPAP machine, used for sleep apnea, a small portable power station, like the ones I mentioned earlier, Jackery, EcoFlow, etc., can often run a CPAP for a whole night or more. There are also specific CPAP battery packs sold. If you can budget for that, do it. Sleep is important for health, blackout or not. For oxygen machines, figure out how long your oxygen tanks or battery will last. You might need extra portable O2 tanks as backup if the concentrator can't run. If you use a motorized wheelchair or scooter, have a manual chair as backup if possible, or an extra battery that's charged. Keep medicines cool. If you have medications that require refrigeration, insulin is a common one, plan to keep them cool during an outage. A small insulated lunch bag or cooler with an ice pack can preserve meds for many hours. Do not place meds directly on ice. They shouldn't freeze. Instead, use an insulated barrier, like wrap the insulin pens in a cloth and put in the cooler with ice packs around, not touching. There are also medication travel coolers you can buy, but a Ziploc bag inside a small cooler works too. Know how long your medication can be unrefrigerated safely. Many insulin types are okay at room temp for up to 28 days. Check your specific type. So if your house is not blazing hot, a short outage might not even matter. But in a heat wave, you definitely want to keep it cool. If you have a neighbor with a generator, maybe ask if they can store your med in their fridge during an extended outage, or perhaps put it in a thermos with ice that you refresh periodically. Cold packs in freezer. Keep some gel ice packs or even just frozen water bottles, again, in the freezer specifically for medical use. If the power fails, transfer one to your med cooler. Rotate packs if you have an opportunity to re-chill them, like if power comes back briefly or you have a friend with power. Alternate power plans. If you're on something like home dialysis or other treatments, coordinate with your medical provider for an emergency plan. They might advise you to go to a hospital or clinic if power is out for an extended time to receive treatment. Know where those facilities are and how to get there. Know your device's requirements. Some devices can run on DC, battery, or have a car adapter. For example, many CPAPs have 12V adapters, so you can plug into a car cigarette lighter. It might be worth getting that accessory. Same for nebulizers. For asthma, there are battery-operated nebulizers that aren't too pricey. Community resources. Check if there are local programs. Some areas have battery donation programs or lend generators to those with critical needs during emergencies. The Red Cross or fire department might have info. Don't be shy to reach out before a crisis, so you're on their radar. Last resort. Go somewhere with power. If you are truly in a life-threatening situation, say you're on a ventilator at home and the generator failed, call 911 or get to somewhere with power backup immediately. Hospitals, fire stations, etc. will have generators. Even if it's not life-threatening but you're concerned, for example, an elderly relative getting too hot, you can go to an emergency room or call for help. But ideally, we avoid that by planning ahead with the above steps. I know this is heavy stuff, but I want to emphasize, don't let pride or procrastination put you in danger. If you have medical electricity needs, do the prep now. Talk to your doctor about what to do if XYZ device stops. They might be able to provide extra supplies or advice. One more little thing. Backup eyeglasses, hearing aid batteries, etc. Not life-saving, but in a stressful blackout, having your assistive devices functional is part of medical needs too. Keep a stash of hearing aid batteries. Keep a spare pair of glasses if you can. Nothing worse than breaking your only pair when all the stores are closed due to an outage. Ask me how I know. All right, so those were the 11 items I initially compiled. But wait, we're doing 15 genius ways, right? Because I love to over-deliver on preparedness info. So let's add a few more bonus tips that are equally important and clever without breaking your budget. Number 12. Team up with neighbors or family. Community support. Surviving a blackout doesn't have to be a solo venture. In fact, working together with your neighbors, friends, and family nearby can make things a lot easier and even more fun. This is a genius way because it costs nothing and everybody wins. Share resources. Maybe you don't have a generator, but your neighbor does, and maybe you have a gas grill and they don't. By talking now and making a loose plan, you could agree to help each other out. For example, during an outage, you could cook up a meal on your grill for both families, and they could let you plug your freezer into their generator for an hour to chill it down. Barter and trade, old school style. One person's got a pool, could use that water to flush toilets or cool off. Another's got a battery fan, etc. Figure out who has what in your immediate vicinity. Buddy system. Check-ins. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly or those with young kids or disabilities. It might be as simple as knocking on their door, in daylight, or shouting over the fence, "You guys doing okay? Need any water or anything?" During heat waves, isolation can be dangerous. If you have an elderly neighbor living alone, you could save their life by just making sure they're coping and have water. Community resilience is a big deal. In disasters, areas where neighbors know each other tend to fare much better. So introduce yourself ahead of time if you haven't. It's a little awkward in modern times, but trust me, when the lights are out, you'll be glad to have a friendly rapport. Pooling for big purchases. This is more long-term, but say you and a couple of neighbors all are concerned about outages. Maybe you could chip in together on a generator that you share. You'd have to work out the logistics and trust, of course. Or at least share the cost of fuel. This works if, for example, houses are close and you could run extension cords, safely, to 2 houses from 1 generator. Just an idea for stretching resources. Evacuation hosts. If you have family or close friends in town, make a plan. If my neighborhood loses power but yours doesn't, can I come over, and vice versa? During California outages, I know people who would drive 30 minutes to stay at a friend's house that still had electricity when theirs was cut. Having a place to go can be a literal lifesaver in extreme heat. Or maybe you're the one with a cool basement, and you invite the neighbors to hang out in the evening. Share a battery radio and some board games. Make it less miserable together. Keep a physical contact list. We rely so much on our phones, but if cell towers go down or batteries die, you should have a paper list of important phone numbers, including neighbors and nearby friends. Also, have at least one old-school corded phone if you have landline service. Those work when cordless phones don't, since cordless base needs power. If you have no way to call, having a predetermined meetup or check-in plan is good. Something like, if a blackout lasts more than 24 hours, we'll meet at X location at noon to check in. This community aspect might sound like overkill for a simple outage, but again, when heat and prolonged outages mix, it can become a serious emergency. Working together not only improves practical outcomes but boosts morale. Humans are social creatures. Sitting alone in a sweltering dark house can be psychologically tough, but having a neighbor to talk to, even if it's complaining about the utility company, makes it more bearable. And hey, if nothing else, you could combine resources to have a little block party outside in the evening. Everyone bring out the melting freezer meat and have a grill-out feast before it goes bad. I've heard of that happening. Spontaneous BBQs during outages, lemonade from thawing ice, music from someone's battery radio. Turn the crisis into a community bonding event. That's priceless and definitely budget-friendly. Number 13. Use your car as a power cooling resource safely. I touched on this in a couple of other points, but let's give the vehicle strategy its own moment. Your car or truck can be incredibly useful in a blackout, and you already have it, so it's a free resource in a sense, aside from fuel. Here's how your car can help you survive a blackout. Charging devices. With a simple car charger adapter, you can charge phones, tablets, radios, even run small USB fans or lights off your car's battery through the 12V socket. Be careful not to drain the car battery too much without the engine running, though. It's best to run the engine periodically to keep the battery charged, or just turn the car on accessory mode sparingly. If you have a portable inverter that converts DC 12V to AC wall plug, you can even charge laptops or other gadgets from your car. Many cars now even have USB ports built in. Take advantage of that. Air conditioning. Oasis. If it's brutally hot and you're feeling overheated, you can sit in your car with the AC on to cool down. Again, do this outside or with plenty of ventilation, never in a closed garage. And mind your fuel-running AC will use gas, so it's not sustainable indefinitely. But as a break from the heat, a 10-20-minute cool-off drive or idle can lower your core temperature significantly. Maybe use this as a last resort when you're really struggling, or use it strategically. For example, take the family for a short drive to get ice cream, if any shops open. You cool off in the car and get a treat at the same time. Transportation to cooler locations. Your car can ferry you to somewhere that has power or cooler temps. If the whole city is out, Maybe drive to a lake or beach to catch a breeze, or up into the hills if that's nearby. During some blackouts, people drive to neighboring towns that have electricity to get a hotel or stay with friends. Just make sure the situation is safe. Traffic lights might be out. Drive cautiously. Also, if it's a fuel shortage scenario, you'd conserve gas, but usually summer blackouts aren't like that. Still, keep your gas tank at least half full during high-risk months, so you're not scrambling to find an open gas station with power during an outage. Pro tip: gas pumps need electricity, no power, no gas. Radio news. As mentioned, your car radio is probably the most powerful receiver you own. Use it for news and updates if you don't have another radio. In-car inverter for appliances. Some folks have those heavy-duty inverters that can run moderate appliances, like maybe a small fan or even a coffee maker, off a car. This isn't super common, but if you're a bit technical, it's possible. Basically, you'd be using your car as a generator. It's not very fuel efficient for big loads, but for emergency use you could, say, run a CPAP or charge tool batteries, etc., through an inverter. A word of caution: carbon monoxide. I'll repeat it because it's so crucial. If you use your car for AC or charging, always run it outdoors or with the tailpipe in open air. Even sitting in a running car with windows closed outside is safe as long as the exhaust isn't trapped somewhere. I usually crack a window anyway to be safe. Also, don't leave the car running unattended for long periods. Aside from theft risk, you could end up wasting fuel or overheating the engine if it's an old car. Use it in spurts. One more sneaky car tip: if you're melting in bed at night and desperate, you could use the car's AC to cool your body down right before bedtime. Take a drive or sit in the car until you feel comfortably cool, then go straight to bed. Your core temp will rise again, but maybe you'll fall asleep faster with that initial coolness. I know, it's a little sad as a strategy, but hey, whatever works when you're desperate for sleep in the heat. And to reiterate, always have some cash when you drive somewhere during an outage. Credit card readers might be down. If you find a gas station or store open running on a generator, they might be cash only. Keep small bills too. All right, so your car is basically a multi-tool. It's a giant battery, a fan, and a means to escape. Just don't run out of gas. I like to refill once I hit half a tank during summer months just in case. Number 14. Keep morale up. Entertainment and mental resilience. This might not sound as genius as the others, but trust me, keeping your sanity and spirits up during a blackout can make a huge difference. When you're hot, sweaty, and everything's dark, it's easy to get irritable or anxious, especially for kids. So plan for some low-tech entertainment and comfort. Have activities ready. Board games, a deck of cards, books. Remember those papery things? Coloring books for kids, crossword puzzles, whatever suits your household. If you have kids, set aside a couple of blackout surprise toys or games that only come out when the power's out to make it a special occasion. Maybe a puzzle or a Lego set they haven't seen. It distracts them from the discomfort and boredom. Download media ahead of time. If you have a tablet or laptop, load some movies or shows onto it while you have power and internet. Charge it up, and when the lights go out, you can have a little movie night, until the battery dies anyway. Just remember to use headphones or keep volume low if windows are open. Sound carries more when it's quiet everywhere, and you don't want to advertise to the whole block that you've got power or devices. For security reasons, it's sometimes better to keep a low profile in a major outage. But for a short rolling blackout, that's not a big concern. Music or radio. A battery radio isn't just for news. Music can be a morale booster too. Maybe even have an old-school sing-along or play instruments if you're musically inclined. Sounds cheesy, but it passes time and keeps mood up. Cool down. Fun. If it's daylight and super hot, maybe water play if you have kids. Dunk your feet in a kiddie pool, have a squirt gun fight, run through a sprinkler if water's still available. You're hot anyway. Might as well get wet and have a laugh. Then you won't mind being wet because it actually cools you off. Keep a routine, loosely. Blackouts, especially if long, disrupt our routines, which can be unsettling. Try to maintain some normalcy, like still brush your teeth, still do your bedtime stories with the kids, by flashlight perhaps. If it's an extended outage over multiple days, make a little daily schedule. Fetch ice in morning, play card game in afternoon when it's too hot to move much, etc. It gives a sense of purpose and progress. Attitude and perspective. This is more mental, but try to treat it like an adventure or a camping trip. I know when you're melting in your living room, that's a hard sell, but mindset matters. If you're the leader of your family or group, your calm demeanor will set the tone. Instead of, "This sucks, I'm so angry," try, "Okay guys, we're camping in the house tonight. Who wants to tell a ghost story?" It sounds corny, but why not? Light a safe candle or lantern and tell stories or jokes. One day it'll be a memory. Remember that time the power went out and we all slept in the living room and made shadow puppets? Use the time usefully. Alternatively, a long, quiet period could be an opportunity. Maybe journal about what you're experiencing. Could be useful data for future preps. Or plan future emergency kits. Make a list of, next time I want to have X. If it's daytime, maybe do some manual chores you've put off, cleaning that closet, etc., though avoid heavy labor in peak heat. Keeping yourself occupied makes time go faster and keeps your mind off the discomfort. Stay positive with others. If you have an older neighbor freaking out, reassure them. If your kids are scared, why isn't the TV working? Comfort them. Explain things in simple terms, maybe even scientifically if they're curious. The people who run the electricity had to turn some off to protect the whole system, but they'll turn it back on soon. Meanwhile, we get to have an adventure with no TV. Your positivity can prevent the situation from feeling like a crisis. Also, be prepared for the nighttime weirdness. When the whole neighborhood is dark, it can feel eerie. You might hear sounds you normally don't, like animals or distant sirens. If you feel uneasy, know that's normal. Safety-wise, keep your doors locked. Sometimes opportunistic thieves take advantage of outages, alarms off, etc., though rolling blackouts are usually too short and well patrolled for that. Still, using some solar lights outside or a battery motion light can give a sense of security. And don't do anything in anger or frustration like, oh, I don't know. Go yell at utility workers on the street. They're doing their best, trust me. Keep cool figuratively, even if you can't literally. In short, take care of your mental health and each other. A summer blackout can fray nerves quicker than a winter one, I think, because being hot makes people cranky. Anticipate that and counteract with some family friends bonding time and a bit of humor. Small sarcasm and gallows humor are totally allowed. Sometimes you just have to laugh at how absurd it is that you're fanning yourself with a pizza box while eating canned ravioli by flashlight. It's okay, it'll make a great story later. Number 15, practice makes perfect. Run a blackout drill. You've heard of fire drills? Well, how about a power outage drill? This is my final genius tip. Simulate a blackout on your own terms to test your preparedness. It might sound a bit extreme, but it's actually kind of fun and very revealing. Pick an evening, maybe a weekend when everyone's home, and turn off the main breaker to your house for a couple of hours, or at least pretend by not using any electrical items. Do it when it's hot out to mimic summer conditions. Now see how you fare. Can you find all your supplies in the dark? Flashlights, batteries, etc. You might realize, oh shoot, I moved the lantern and now I don't know where it is. Better to find out now than in a real outage. Did you remember to unplug stuff? This drill can train everyone in the house on what to do first in a blackout. Are you able to keep cool for those hours? Maybe you end up all sitting on the porch because it's cooler outside. That's good to know as a strategy. Try cooking a no-power meal. Open a can of something, use a camp stove if you have one, or eat cereal for dinner. See if everyone is satisfied or if you need more different food options. Test your backup power. Plug a fan into that battery station, run it for a while. Does it last as long as you thought? Is it quieter or louder than expected? Does the generator actually start up easily? These are things you want to know now. Check lighting. Maybe realize, oops, we only have one tiny flashlight for the whole family, that's not enough. Then you can fix that by buying a couple more. Time your fridge warming. Don't open it, but maybe put a thermometer inside before the drill. After 4 hours off, see what the temp is. It'll give you an idea of how your specific fridge holds up. Some newer fridges are super well insulated and maintain temp longer. See how the kids react. Is Johnny terrified of the dark? Better get him a nightlight or glow stick for real outages? Does the teenager go crazy without Wi-Fi after 1 hour? Maybe download some movies to their phone, as we mentioned. This trial run can also highlight any weak points in your plan. Perhaps you discover your portable radio doesn't have batteries in it, or that the generator extension cord doesn't reach the freezer, or that you really should buy a battery-powered fan before the real heat wave hits. Make it a learning experience, not a chore. Debrief after, okay family, what was the worst part? What would help make it better? You might get suggestions like, more ice cream, or, can we get a solar charger? You'd be surprised kids have clever ideas too sometimes. Maybe they'll say, I wish I had a headlamp so I could keep reading. Boom, that's an item for the shopping list. By practicing, you build confidence. So when an actual blackout happens at 3 p.m. on a 100 degrees day, you won't be flustered. You'll think, all right, we've got this. Flashlights are in the drawer, snacks are ready, we'll play Monopoly to pass time, and I know the house won't become an oven for at least a couple hours because we tried it. It also turns what could be a scary, stressful event into something you've already conquered. Muscle memory will kick in. You'll instinctively unplug appliances, set up the fan in the window, whatever, because you've done it before. If you want to get really fancy, coordinate a drill with a neighbor or friend across town and compare notes. Make a game of it, who lasted longer without peeking at their phone, etc. In the preparedness community, we often say, don't wait for an emergency to figure stuff out. Training and drills are how firefighters, EMTs, etc. operate. We can take a page from that book for our personal preparedness. So go ahead. Challenge yourself with a self-imposed blackout one day. It costs nothing, and the insights you gain could be priceless. Plus, when you turn the power back on, you'll appreciate that sweet, sweet AC even more, at least until the real outage hits. Whew! We made it through all 15 tips. Now, let's do a super quick recap and some final thoughts, because I threw a ton of information at you. To survive a summer blackout on a budget, you should charge up everything in advance, have some kind of backup power, from battery banks to generators, ready to go, stock up on no-cook foods and water, light up the darkness with flashlights and solar lights, and use creative tricks to stay cool without AC. Protect your food by keeping the fridge, freezer closed, maybe add ice packs. Shift your routines to use less power at peak times, and always unplug electronics to avoid surge damage. Stay informed with a radio and alerts, and make special plans for medical needs, devices, and meds. Don't forget the power of community team up with neighbors for support, and even use your car as a temporary lifeline for cooling and charging. Keep everyone's spirits up with a bit of entertainment and positivity, and perhaps most importantly, practice your plan so you're not caught off guard. All of this without spending a fortune. Mostly it's about planning, knowledge, and using what you already have in smart ways. For those who like official info, the 2025 Summer Reliability Assessment by NERC, North American Electric Reliability Corp., has all the gritty details on which areas are at risk and why. It's a dense read, kinda like watching paint dry, to be honest, but it underscores that our electrical grid is under strain, and these issues aren't going away soon. I'll put a link to NERC's report down below for the diehards who want to dive into it. The world is a-changin', my friends. Our infrastructure is aging, the climate is doing crazy things, and demand for electricity is only going up. It's not getting any easier to keep that power on 24/7. The grid, frankly, is a bit of a hot mess in many regions. The powers that be often focus on other things instead of investing in grid upgrades, so outages become our problem to deal with. That might sound grim, but I'm actually hopeful that we, the people, can take control of our own preparedness. Remember, nobody is coming to save you in a blackout. FEMA's not airdropping you an AC unit, and the utility crew can't magically snap their fingers. They'll be working hard just to get the power back. It's on you to be ready and safe. But the good news is, you can do it, and without spending a ton. A bit of planning, a bit of stocking up, and you'll ride out those blackouts like a champ. When you're prepared, a power outage goes from a life-threatening crisis to more of an inconvenience or even an adventure. You'll be cooling off with your DIY fan contraption, sipping a coldish lemonade, knowing your family is fed, hydrated, and okay. Meanwhile, the neighbor who didn't prepare is panicking. Let's try to get everyone on board with preparedness, so that's not the case. If you want to see more ideas for power outage preparedness, things you can use, or DIY projects, be sure to check out the playlist I'll link right here at the end. It's full of tips on generators, alternative cooking methods, and more. Basically, a treasure trove for exactly this scenario. Thank you so much for joining me today and sticking through this long list. I hope you found it useful, maybe even a little fun. If you learned something new, hit that like button and consider subscribing for more practical prepping tips. Share this video with friends or family who might benefit, especially if they live in those high-risk blackout areas we talked about. I'm looking at you, Texas and Midwest folks. Stay cool, stay safe, and remember, being prepared now means staying comfortable later when everyone else is losing their cool, literally and figuratively. Until next time, be safe and be prepared. We'll get through whatever comes our way together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.